Hello, we have another Saturday food support group. We just get together every Saturday and we support each other on our food journey. And we all come from different walks of life. We're all navigating this at our own place, at our own pace. And we just get together and talk. So today I wanted to talk about emotional eating. And I think one of the reasons why eating is such a struggle for us is that whenever we use food to nurture us, that was not the purpose of food. It was not to nurture us, but there is this natural instinct in us. Like I think about like baby birds and they're nurtured by their mama bird to get that food. And that's that beautiful process. And so some of us, whenever we were children or whenever we were in relationships as we grew up, we were not nurtured. And so we turn to emotional eating to nurture us because that's the only way that we know how to self-soothe. And so unfortunately, that's what creates these unhealthy patterns in us. And the really good news is that you don't have to go get a mama bird to come and nurture you. You don't have to go outside of yourself to find someone else to nurture you. We can nurture ourselves. And I learned this from a tragedy that happened to me in March of 2020. And my whole life stopped. The air just went out of my lungs and I literally felt like my heart stopped beating for a minute. And I needed to be nurtured. And I couldn't be nurtured by anyone else or anything else at that moment. And I'm grateful because I had to get really resourceful. And I said, okay, if I'm not going to be nurtured by something outside of myself, I need to nurture myself from within. And I did. And it was ugly. It was messy. It was painful. It was not pretty. And it was a lot of failure at the beginning, but I just kept taking another step and another step and another step towards loving myself and nurturing myself and telling myself the things that I wanted a nurturer to tell me. You're doing good, Em. You're on the right track, Em. I'm proud of you, Emily. And I had to tell myself those things. And that's what set me free. That's what healed me so that I didn't have to be nurtured by something else. So if you are struggling with emotional eating and you are coming at it from a place of lack, I recognize that. I hear you. I totally can understand and resonate with what you're experiencing. But the idea that you have to be nurtured from something outside of yourself is an illusion. All that you need is within you. And that inner knowing and that inner clarity is there, just bursting, ready to serve you, ready to give you the nurturing that you need so that you don't have to run to outside sources, to emotionally eat or to turn to drugs or to turn to alcohol or to turn to any other outside source. It is all there within you. And I just wanted to remind you of that and to encourage you that you can nurture yourself. So thank you guys. I just wanted to tell you that. All right. I am so excited to unpack this. Tom, please share with us the anti-keto, which is hilarious because I've heard anti-carnivore, but now they're shifting to anti-keto. So tell us what you've discovered.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I noticed that there was articles coming out. I saw it in different places on the internet. The Washington Post published, and I just happened to I just put in keto and search just now while you were talking. It came up, popular keto and paleo diets aren't helping your heart, report says. And when you dig deep into it, it doesn't really give you information. And I think this article was talked about, and Dr. Ken Berry, who interviewed Nina Teicholz, put up video yesterday. And the title of the video, I put it in the chat, is the American Heart Association bought off. And the thing is, the American Heart Association, a supposed nonprofit, and the Cardiac Association, by the way, are all, when you look at their sponsors and who sponsors them and who provides them funding, it's the food industry and the pharmaceutical industry. So they're being paid off, and it's really clear when you dig deep into research. And I just was reading this article while you were talking. I was paying attention to you, by the way. I was
okay.
not. You were talking, but so don't think I'm not paying attention to you. I always do. But they always, their misinformation is just I just got to read one paragraph. The author said one of the purposes of their report was to counter widespread misinformation about nutrition promoted by diet books, blogs, people on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, where posts promoting keto and paleo eating plans have surged in recent years. The amount of misinformation, 2 paragraphs, I lied. The amount of misinformation that has flourished on social media sites has reached critical levels, said Christopher D. Gardner, the director of nutrition studies at Stanford Prevention Research Center. An idiot, by the way, I'm sure. Probably a nice guy in person, but he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Anyways, it just goes on and on. It's the usual. But there was a whole bunch of those articles that were coming out, and I just instinctively knew. I was like, oh, we must be making some headway because they're getting some nervous here. And when keto and eating this way, it's on Joe Rogan. You had Dr. Mayorta, just destroying the statin medication. His video, which I shared also on YouTube, was outstanding. The one where it only increases your life expectancy by, if you had a previous heart attack and you started taking statins, it only increases your life expectancy by 4 days over a 5-year period. So you know my statin story, my heart story and all that. But I was looking at Twitter yesterday, and I came across a gentleman that posted that he was monitoring his CAC score, his CT calcium score. Before he was put on statins, his calcium score would increase by 15%, 20%. So he was monitoring it closely, which was smart. When he started taking statins over a 4-year period, it increased 45%, which almost mirrors exactly my situation when I went from 2016 at a score of 1,000 to 4,000 this past year. So I really believe statins are they're at the very least are not worth the side effects that you get from them. You don't get a benefit. 1 day if you don't have a previous heart attack, 4 days if you did. So we have to be our own advocates. We have to do our own research. And the more research that I do, the more I realize, holy cow! And it's not just eating and food; it's everything across the spectrum. It's all about control and money and people controlling. And I can go down a serious rabbit hole right now, but I won't. It's just it just makes me more and more dismayed every day when I see this stuff. And God, when I watched Ken Berry's video yesterday, I was like, this is unbelievable. And Nina Teicholz, you know her, she's not a doctor, she's a journalist, but she knows more than this jerk that I read off there from Stanford. She knows way more than that fraud, because he is. And by the way, I think Tucker Carlson was fired because he actually did the nutrition segment. Who was it? I was just watching an interview with Robert Kennedy Jr. And he talked to Roger Ailes from Fox News. He wanted to go on and talk about the pharmaceutical industry. And Roger Ailes said that if any anchor lets somebody or talks about that on the news, they will get fired immediately, because Rupert Murdoch is owned by the pharmaceutical, and that's just Fox. It's all of them. I mean, I used to be a big Fox News guy. I don't even go near that anymore. I don't go near any mainstream media. I do my own research. I listen to people like you, of course, and Amy and Jackie and Monica, who does their own their own research, going out there seeing what works for you. Kelly Hogan, who's been a carnivore for 13 years and has a CAC score of 0. So it's BS. Everything they're saying is BS. And the reason why they're saying it, that it's bad for your heart, is because it raises your cholesterol level. And I can go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Where the complete opposite, a higher cholesterol the longer you live. So they've been lying to us for all these years, and we know it. We know it. They know we know it, and that's why these articles are coming out. So
I love your perspective, Tom, because you said that this is evidence that we are shifting that needle.
yeah,
And so I celebrate in this. I really celebrate in this push that they have for, oh, we got to quiet them. We got to quiet them. They can't tell people to eat whole foods. They can't tell people to, not be on statins. They can't suggest that people can survive without big pharma, And so I love that you said that, and that you see that this is evidence that we are making a difference in our tiny little conversations, our tiny little groups, our tiny little, Instagram page or YouTube channels. We're
and
making a difference.
Yeah, you just stimulated another memory that I had of the video that Dr. Berry did. He held up a newspaper that family doctors get. So I forget the name of it. If you watch the video, it's called the American Heart Association is bought off, or is the American Heart Association bought off, which ties in directly what I'm talking about here. And Nina Teicholz talks about all these relationships of the big the food industries and the pharmaceutical industries, things like that. But the doctors are getting these newspapers, and one of the articles on that newspaper was what I was telling you about. Keto is bad for your heart. So now these doctors are getting this, and they're like, oh, do they even read the article? Maybe, maybe not. But even if they do, when you really look at the article, there's it's so big and it circles around it. They have a little bit of truth sprinkled in here, but there's no substance. There's no science to back it up. And they'll say, oh, a study of, it's so terrible. And Nina Teicholz had a really good comment about the studies, how they're not real studies, and there's nothing backing up what they're saying. So I really, if you guys get a chance to watch it, it was one of the better interviews that Ken did. He does a lot of good ones, but that was a really good one. So yeah, that's awesome. Why it's not what I'm saying is it's not our fault as the population. We've been lied to. We've been brainwashed. The medical community, the doctors have been brainwashed. As smart as they are, we're talking about a lot of smart guys. My family doctor, I love the guy. He's a smart guy, former military, but he buys into that, same thing. Because they almost have no choice, because especially the way our medical community has gone to, instead of having these private practices where doctors have their own practices, now everybody's under an administration, and it's all paid for by big pharma and the food industry. They want to keep us unhealthy and dependent so that they can control everything that we do, and then they make billions and high profits, and it's really sad. And meanwhile, the whole population is dying. But then they say keto's killing you, but look around what your freaking guidelines have done to the whole population.
Yeah.
You guys are screwing up here. I'm sorry. So I rambled, sorry.
No, it's great. I think you're speaking for many of us. And what I think is so important is for us to lead in love and to lead in that truth of just presenting it, because I think if we get, start to bully back, the people who are just trying to understand, trying to make sense of all of this, whenever we're under let's just call it what it is, a psyop, we're under this programming. If we try and bully other people who are not seeing it, then they're going to just put up more resistance. And so I think it's important for us to just show our experience, like, oh my gosh, your story, Tom, like your story, in my opinion, if somebody could listen to just a 5-minute clip of your story, it would dissolve 50% of all of the lies that are being put out by big pharma and by, the government and by this other agenda. And so we need to lead with our stories. We need to lead with our love and our experience. And so I'm so grateful that you brought that to our attention. Thank you so much, Tom. So the next thing I would love for Jackie, if you're available, can you ask your question?
I can. It's so serious, though. It's not at all like Tom, it's so serious. I am obsessed with making meatloaf. Ma, the meatloaf. So I am looking for meatloaf recipes. And like yesterday, I made one where I combined sausage and ground beef together, 1 egg and 1 cup of ground pork rinds. And it was kind of not, I'm looking for a flavor boost too. So, the seasonings, I think, are where it's at. But anyway, I am just wanting anyone to send me their meatloaf recipes because I'm all in. I've got 3 different ones right now that I've been using. So that was my question.
Awesome. Well, we are in the presence of royalty. And so I think it is very important for right now for us to roll out the red carpet to the angel's journey. Amy has totally been such a resource for us for multiple recipes. And so I know she has an answer for this one. Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, it's yes, the red carpet, the meatloaf red carpet can be rolled out for me. Fantastic. Too funny. So when I first went keto 4 years ago, something like that, I needed to find recipes that I really liked. And so I always took a bunch of recipes and I put them all together and then I kept tweaking them until I liked them. And actually meatloaf was one of the easiest things for me to figure out. And I overcomplicated it. I tried so many different variations. And then my husband was like, why don't you just take your old meatloaf recipe and replace the bad stuff? And I went, oh, well, that makes too much sense. So I'll send it to you. I have a video about it, but for me, I'll just say this out loud. 2 pounds of ground beef. You can use whatever kind of ground beef, or you could probably try sausage too. 1 cup of pork panko, 1 cup of Parmesan cheese, 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. If you like it really garlicky, then double up on that. 2 teaspoons of seasoned salt and a teaspoon of black pepper. That's it. So it's super simple. And then you have topping options. If you wanted to do a traditional topping, I use a keto safe ketchup. I do like 2/3 of a cup to a cup and a half. It depends on how spicy you like it. A keto safe ketchup, 1 tablespoon of dry mustard, 2 tablespoons of any kind of brown sweetener. If you're doing that, you can absolutely leave it out. And then 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce.
Ooh.
And you would never know the difference. You could do that, or you could just wrap it with bacon.
I love that. Rosa put that in the chat too.
That's what a lot of carnivores do. They're like, nope, I'll touch spices, but I won't do the ketchup, the tomato blood. I won't do that. So you can just layer it with bacon on top. And those are your options. And it's absolutely fantastic. Super easy. And I'll send you the recipe. So you don't have to write it down.
Thank you. I did not write it down, Tom. He's asking in the chat. But, the way I got my husband was I have a proposal meatloaf. He proposed on the night I made my meatloaf. And the olden days, I used to cut up onion really, really fine, like almost mush, and mix that with barbecue sauce. And I would put that a layer on top. There's probably no keto safe way to do that again.
There's some keto barbecue sauces for sure.
Maybe I could try that. But he said, I miss that meatloaf you used to make. So I've been making all kinds and we go, yeah, that's pretty good. But none of them are like, wow, like the wow factor. So definitely thank you, Amy, for sharing that. And I will try it.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll also include my barbecue sauce recipe in there for you as well.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I had a question for Jackie. On the proposal night, you didn't put garlic in the meatloaf, did you?
No.
No. I put a lot of the same things that Amy mentioned, the egg. I used breadcrumbs back in the day, but I think the topping was the significant factor for him because he hadn't had meatloaf with a oniony barbecue sauce on top like that in a layer, and then when you bake it, it just, yeah.
You know what they say? to a man's the way to a man's heart is through the stomach. Works every
Yes.
time, meatloaf especially.
Proposal meatloaf. That's what I'm looking for.
I love it. I love it. And so if anybody is listening to this, either here in the meeting or on the replay, Amy's channel is the Angel's Journey. Or just look up Amy Bellender, and you will have a wealth of ideas. She has a big family, and she feeds her family and has transitioned them out of sugar and processed foods, and just some great practical reasons. And then, of course, her journey is absolutely amazing. So go find that if you haven't already. Thank you, Amy, so much. And next we have Monica is going to give us a little bit of an update. Go ahead, Monica. I would love to hear your story and where you're at right now with things.
Thank you. I'm going to do a quick piggyback on what Tom was talking about, because
Awesome.
Recently my mom, who is 81, was talking to me very concerned because her cholesterol score was over 200. And she's like, my cholesterol is too high, and the doctor is saying this and the doctor is saying that. And I said, tell me the individual numbers. And she said, well, my HDL is 111. And I said, no, it's not. No, Mom, it can't be 111. You got that wrong. And she pulled up her score, and her HDL was like 111. And her LDL was around 100. So she had a score of 211. And the doctor kind of had her freaking out. And gratefully being in many of Amy's meetings, and I never remember the name of the study. I know it starts with an F.
What is it, Amy? Framingham.
Framingham. And I probably
Framingham.
always call it the Farmingham study, but I have taken screenshots.
We got to frame ham. We got to frame ham.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to remember that. And so I've taken plenty of screenshots of that chart that she would put up. And I showed it to my mom, and I explained it to her. And I said, look, guidelines say, your test says your HDL is supposed to be over 40. I said, yours is over 100. Like, mine is only 79. I'm like, you are 81 and your high score is over 100. Like, you're never having a heart attack. Like, that is not something we are ever going to worry about. It's going to take you out. And so I explained it to her. I don't know how much she cared hearing it from me, not a medical professional in any way. So I have to just be grateful that at her age, she's like, how much time do I have left? I'm not taking a bunch of crap right now. So she refused any medicine from the doctors and was more, I think, talking to me because of my knowledge of nutrition about what kinds of things could maybe help her get her score down. But I was like, Mom, there's absolutely nothing wrong with your score. And I would kill for an HDL of 111. Are you kidding me? So I just wanted to touch on that because, like, as Tom said, we have to do our research. We need to educate ourselves, and we need to know. And I don't know how much I would have not taken things at face value, even when I was educating myself. If, a few years ago, I had not come across Dr. Berry, and him writing, and I haven't read the book, but him writing the book, The Lies My Doctor Told Me, and just talking about, here is a doctor saying, we've been lying to you because this is what we were taught, and this is what we thought, or this is what the research said. And I was like, okay, if a doctor can admit the doctors are lying, then I need to do a little bit better by myself and for the sake of my family. And so, I appreciate you saying that, Tom, that, knowing that I do take the time to read and research and not just look at one or two sources, then, that's where we at. So that was my side note. And
I love it.
To what I was going to discuss, which is I've shared that right now, a part of my journey is increasing fermented food and beverage to work on my gut health, that second brain that we all know kind of controls everything else as far as being healthy. A big part of it is your gut health. And so I have learned in these last few weeks that I really get in my way and I need to get out of my way. And that when I started doing this, it really was divine intervention, that I had all this fermented stuff. I wasn't using it. I wasn't eating it. I wasn't drinking it. And it's all here for me. Utilize it. And so I started to, and for the first time in months, I lost a ton of inflammation and I had a massive 8-pound weight loss in a week.
Amazing.
And I hadn't had like any weight loss in months. And so I did this for a couple of weeks, and, the next week, a little weight came back on. That's expected. Your body has to regulate itself. And then the following week I lost weight. And then I went back to, oh my gosh, here's what you do. You are strict during the week because you meal prep, you take the same things for breakfast and lunch every day, or whenever I get around to eating it, but so that everybody understands. And so you're very strict during the week because you have such a busy schedule, you just need to be. And on the weekend, I would be more laxed, and somewhat my eating would be more laxed. And so, but it was still working. I felt good, and there was some weight coming off. And then I thought, well, I went to that carnivore harder. Like, if you don't go laxed on the weekend and if you stay super strict, you'll have even more weight loss. And so I did that. I did not relax. I kept my Monday through Friday regimen. And the following Friday, when I did my weigh-in, I was up 3.3 pounds. And I'm like, why? What? Why? How? Why? And I didn't let it freak me out, but I just thought, but you're doing what you believe is supposed to be good and, working for your body. So I just said, okay, we're going to just go back. And so that weekend I was laxed. And then all last week I was strict. And when I weighed in on Friday, I was down 3.3 pounds. It came right back off. And I thought, you have got to get out of your own way. You're trying to fix something that wasn't broken, something that was actually working for the first time in months, where not only physically did I feel good, losing that inflammation, I was walking around so much better. My gait and my stride was strong and it was quicker, and I noticed it and it felt good. And then I said all over again, it's about the weight, and stopped realizing that it's not. It's about my health. It's about being in a healthier body that eventually will be a smaller body, and that will help in certain areas, but that's not it right now as part of my healing. And so I'm just grateful that I can come to meetings like this and hear you guys share, hear your stories, hear our individuality, but also keep me present to recognizing that as soon as I get in my way, as soon as I think I need to make another change, I need to do this, I need to do it harder because this is going to be the result, my body and God is saying, no, see, now you're in the way. Now you got to thinking again when you shouldn't have, because nothing was wrong. Everything was going right. And so I'm just staying the course. I'm staying the course until God lets me know I just need to stay present and be where he has me, be where he wants me to be, and trust that process and trust myself in trusting that process. Stop overthinking it, stop overanalyzing, and just being obedient to what he's put before me and stay out of my way. So I just wanted to share that. I'm still doing the fermented foods, which, if you don't know, I start every day whenever I decide to eat with some yogurt that I make myself. I did have a little issue this week because homemade yogurt does continue to ferment. And by the time I get to the bottom of the jar, it's rather strong. And I should decrease the amount I eat, which is a half a cup. And I didn't. And so I was in class with very bad stomach cramps this week. And the kids were like, why don't you just sit down? Are you okay? And I was like, I'm fine. It'll pass. And it did. But I just need to remember that. And then I do sauerkraut and I do fermented pickles as the foods. And a lot of it is in my sparkling water. I add the liquid from either fermenting fruit for at least a month, which is just fruit, water, and whey that I get off of my yogurt, or I do one with vegetables, which is beets, cabbage, garlic. The fruit gets ginger. Yeah, the garlic gets the beets, cabbage, garlic, some salt, and some whey. And I ferment that for a very long time. And then I bottle the liquid and I add the liquid into the water that I'm drinking, just so that I'm getting fermented food and probiotics throughout the day. So anyway, that's the update, and that's what I learned this week. And thank you for letting me share.
That's awesome. I love that so much. And how much freedom there is in that feeling of knowing that we can just take a step back, that we don't have to control and manipulate and tweak and carnivore harder, that we're doing our best job by just allowing the process. So thank you so much for sharing that, Monica. I cannot thank you enough for that, because I know that's going to speak to somebody today who is going, oh, I lost, so many pounds. Maybe if I carnivore harder, then I can lose even more, instead of just trusting the process and allowing everything to regulate itself. Thank you. Rosa. So good to see you. So good to have you here.
Hi, it's so good to see you guys. I'm so glad I can come today.
Yay!
I haven't been able to make it for a while just because of things going on, but I had some time today, and so I was like, I need to come.
Yay! I'm so glad. What's on your heart?
Well, it's actually something I've realized just this week through some of my symptoms are really coming back with a vengeance.
No. Oh no.
Yeah. And I've been through this before with going on just strict carnivore, and then I will add the vegetables back in, some of the vegetables back in. And over time, kind of the pattern that I've seen happen is where I just will think I can eat whatever. And this kind of happens slowly. It's almost, I feel like in a way, it's almost like my alcohol addiction, where I think I can have a drink here and there. And then it kind of trickles into, I think I can, kind of add in a little too much things that don't do well with my body, at least. Because, a couple months ago, I started just with the squash, adding some squash. And using like muscle testing to figure out which foods are okay for my body. But then it's almost like I get greedy.
It's never enough.
Like I'll be like, in my mind, I'm like, I can have a salad, or I can have asparagus, even though my body told me no. Even through testing, it was like, no, you shouldn't have asparagus. And it's hard because I just like it, And then it's a slow process for me, I'll kind of add these things back in. And then also I do notice I tend to want sweets again. And some of those things did trickle back in a little bit, and not even a lot, just a little. And little by little, I just noticed really like this last couple of weeks or so, I started to get really inflamed in my gut again. And also my hands are like, right now they're freezing. And that actually went away for a long time just doing carnivore. But now that's back. And my eczema is coming back. And yeah, just kind of these little things are just coming back. And even the brain fog is kind of, coming back. And then I just, I mean, this is a little personal, but I had some issues with my like lady parts.
Got it. Got it.
And yeah. And so I don't know what's going on with that. And so I'm having like a little scare with that right now. And so I'm going through the doctor and I thought when I added, some of these vegetables back in and maybe got some things I wasn't getting from eating just meat. At first I did lose some weight and some water weight. But I think that was just like I needed potassium because some of the foods I was led to eat had a lot of potassium in them.
Mm,
That's the only thing I can think of. But now I'm back to like slowly gaining weight again. So I've decided just to change things again and just go more just mostly meat. I might have some squash here and there, or avocado, but that's it. Like I really have to kind of narrow it back. But I was really frustrated because I was having some health issues. And so I got all these tests done because I just keep feeling like it's something like hormonal,
mm,
because no matter what I eat, I'll exercise, I'll change all these things. It doesn't matter what I do, just the last couple of years, and even just doing, strict carnivore or adding vegetables back in or fasting or anything I do, I just seem to slowly gain a little weight. And it's not like dramatic, it's just like slowly,
mm.
and then the needle doesn't really move with the weight. So, but now I'm going through this, kind of health stuff again. So I don't care about the weight anymore. Like I
Yeah.
can relate to what you were saying, Monica, about it's not about the weight at all anymore for me, even. It's like I want to, something is going on in my body and I don't know what it is. And I got blood work done and everything's normal. And I was really emotional actually when I got the blood work from my doctor because I was like, oh my God, this is like my whole story. Everything's always normal,
Mm.
but there's something going on. There's something serious going on, and I don't know, really what's going on. And so it's really frustrating.
Yeah. Well, and I think also, we get into that either or. Like either we get really, really greedy and we want all the things, or we go like severely strict. And neither one of those, I believe, is a sign of health. I think it's kind of the way, the Tao, to really be in that balance of the yin and the yang and to be in control in that moment. Because I think sometimes we think the only place that we can be in control is when we carnivore harder, and that we abstain from everything. And that's not really a sign of health. That's not really a sign of strength, to just abstain from everything. I think it's knowing yourself, knowing what foods are best for you, and really listening to those signs that sometimes change every day. There's some times where my body says, yes, you should eat this today. And then a week later, it says, no, you should not eat this today. And I have to listen. I can't just get the message from my body, now and think that's going to be the message in a month. We have to be in tune and really, to use a spiritual term, we have to abide in that. We have to have that daily connection to our body and to our inner knowing to really navigate this. We can't just go on autopilot. And so I love that you are continuing to have this conversation with yourself to go, okay, let's reassess this. Let's really see where this is going. And I can't thank you enough for sharing your story, because I'm sure many people can relate to that of just getting kind of lost in the incorporating everything else.
Well, yeah, and one weird thing that came back was this neuropathy in my right hand, and I hadn't had that for years. But I asked my body, And I found out it was actually the asparagus. And because I had some asparagus. It wasn't even a lot. It was just, and I don't know what it is about asparagus, but I had it like 2 nights in a row where I had a little bit with dinner. And I noticed when I was eating a lot of greens, like especially spinach, is when I had the neuropathy in my hand. And I don't know if it's like oxalates or what, it could be. But also I do have I've always, had a hard time detoxifying. And I'm
Yeah.
just kind of wondering if maybe there's, just by incorporating some plants, maybe too much each day or in a period of time, if maybe my body isn't able to break down some of those toxins from the plant. And then also if I'm depleted in other vitamins, because I also haven't been eating as much red meat as I was before. And so now I'm trying to eat, the last couple of days, I've just been eating nothing but like hamburger. And so I'm already starting to feel better, because there's all those B vitamins in the red meat. And
Yeah.
I noticed I've been eating a lot more chicken and fish. And so I think my body just needs those nutrients and it's not getting, so, but also I want to kind of have I don't want to be as strict as I was before, like you were saying. I kind of, what I want, my thing is I kind of want to just eat mostly meat and then maybe have some acorn squash is the only squash I can eat. Because another thing I learned is that if I eat butternut squash, I get a rash on the roof of my mouth, which is really weird. And I never knew what it was before. But when we can like eliminate, enough foods and then we can reintroduce it, I think then we could see the result, from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Amy, is anything coming to the surface for you as you're hearing Rosa talk?
A lot.
Yeah, I could see it in your eyes. Go ahead.
There's so much. Oh my gosh, it's so hard. There is a very good chance that yes, you are not getting the nutrients that you need, which is why you're craving all of these things. But so many of our foods they really are trying to kill us. And I was watching a video the other day. I'll make it quick.
Go
and
ahead.
I was going through the comments underneath this video, and someone was sharing, has nothing to do with food. This one, like the video really, it had like very little to do with food. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, there, where is it? Come back. Come on, where did you go? My computer just like sent me to the bottom of the page because it's super helpful. Food issues in the country are pretty old. I moved to the USA from Europe in 1998. Without a car, I ended up walking briskly a few hours every day looking for a job, and then to and from my job. I was beat by the end of the day, every single day, yet I managed to gain weight, about 20 pounds, not even eating too much food, but healthy food. I definitely spent more calories than I consumed. With the same fast-paced lifestyle, I'd absolutely be losing weight back home, not gaining. There was something wrong with the food back then, 25 years ago. I can only imagine how much worse it's gotten since then.
Wow.
So 25 years ago, and one of my moderators just went to Italy. She stuffed herself with charcuterie and wine and chocolate. She lost weight. She came back over here and she was lighter than she was when she left. And she was not eating healthy. It was the smoked and dried and cured meats and cheeses. She said she ate so much cheese, so much chocolate, and so much wine. And yet she was healthier over there than when she left. And now she's back and she's already beginning to feel the inflammation. She's eating as clean as possible. So the problem is we can only do so much. And so we have to try to find the best way to mitigate. So for you, it sounds like asparagus is a no. As much as you may love asparagus. And the acorn squash, it's so good, but it, for some people, can cause all kinds of other problems. If you think that you're not detoxing well, you can do protocols, but almost all of them are going to be plants. So it's, how are you going to handle it? Like, I'm just now learning about what I can use from my yard to detox with. And honestly, dandelions can be very helpful for detoxing and very supportive for your kidney and for your liver. But if you were to buy a supplement, do you know if it was taken care of? Was it not taken care of? If you find something on the side of the road, was it sprayed? You have no idea. Just because it's still alive doesn't mean it wasn't sprayed 12 hours ago. It's so hard to figure out what's going to work for each one of us in this crazy world. And so that's why I think these communities are so important, because then we can help keep you accountable of, don't eat the asparagus.
Oh yeah. No, I'm not going to be eating asparagus anymore. But yeah, I think sometimes when it's more like when I go out to dinner with my family or something and we'll have something, and before I would never have that. I just can't have that. And now since I gave some vegetables a go, I'm like, oh, maybe I can have that. Like maybe I can have the Brussels sprouts when I probably shouldn't be, having that for me, at least. And I think for me, I have a hard time of, I must have a hard time absorbing certain vitamins. And so maybe whatever vegetables I do have are just blocking the absorption when I really need to just eat, the most nutrient dense.
Yeah, it's very, very possible, because if you're thriving on straight carnivore with lots of beef, then that could very well, what's that saying? If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Well, yeah. And I think I was just, I was focusing on the weight again. And I thought for sure, oh, if I just eat a little less meat and some vegetables, I will surely lose weight. Right. Because, because when I first started my journey a long time ago, which I know you can relate to, Amy, I lost all kinds of weight. I was actually too skinny. And I was eating just vegetables and meat. That's what I was eating. And I thought for sure, oh, that will happen again. And nothing like that has happened. But I think my body's in a different place now. And I know for sure that I have been exposed to mold multiple times and parasites and all that. But yeah, how do we detox from all that? It's so hard.
Yep. There's a lot. That's why I'm trying to get into, I'm looking at herbalism, because I know I need plants. I have no choice. I have to have plants. My body just does not do well without them, but I'm trying to control what I'm doing, and I'm trying to be very intentional about it rather than just, oh, this looks really good in the supermarket and getting it, which is why I'm hoping that having to work for my own food and grow it myself and know where my seeds came from and know what went on those plants, then hopefully that will connect me more to my food, because food for me doesn't seem to really be the answer. It doesn't matter what I do now. It's absolutely crazy. So now I'm turning to the exercise, and now I'm going to get more on the ground level of my food. I'm going to try to not eat from the grocery store. I want to grow what I can forage or what I can find myself. And I'm hoping that connection will help my body to align itself better to what it should be doing when I give it certain foods.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I think this was such an incredible discussion, and so important, because where else are we going to, bounce around these ideas in our own head, with our family that already thinks that we're killing ourselves, or that, or we're making these reckless decisions. And so I'm so thankful that you guys come and you bring these discussions here to this space, and that we are able to navigate it together and to talk about it together. With that being said, we are at the end of our hour. Thank you guys so much for another incredible Saturday food support group, and I will see you next week. Bye.